Joining us now on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's Better Is the great play-by-play man, not only for ESPN. You see him doing a lot of different college games out there. He mixes in with a lot of different things with ESPN, but he's also the play-by-play man for the San Francisco Giants. He joins us now. His name is Dave Flemming. Dave, what's going on? How's your Monday going?
It's going great so far. Happy to be down in San Diego. Baseball season starting. One of my favorite places, Petco Park. So it's nice to talk to you guys.
Nice to talk to you as well. We really appreciate you giving us some time today to give us a preview of this upcoming series. And Dave, let's talk about the Giants. I mean, obviously a slow start, some offensive concerns, 20 scoreless innings to open the season. I mean, that's historically bad for this franchise, especially with some of the names that they have in this roster and in this batting order. From what you've seen, is just kind of early season timing issues, or are there starting to be a little bit of concerns for the Giants this early in the season with the lineup and the lack of runs against the Yankees this weekend?
Yeah, for me, way too early for big concerns. I mean, it was a terrible way to start the season, especially when you start at home and you got three huge crowds and all the excitement of opening day, and then you just don't give your fans anything to be excited about. I mean, really, there was just no juice to the games themselves. There was tons of juice before the games all weekend long. That was disappointing. Way too early to be overly concerned. I mean, it has been just a very strange rollout to the season for the Giants. Spring training went really well, like a really good camp, winning games, hitting, all the young guys performing. And then right at the end, the offense just kind of had a quiet few games at the end of the exhibition schedule. And then the Giants opened on that Netflix game. It was like a weird night to start the season, and an off day, and a Friday game that was a day game that was opening day part two. And it's not an excuse, but the whole thing just felt really fragmented to me. And I wondered whether it really threw some of the players off a little bit, the run up to those games. So my hope is that starting this week, it's more like a normal baseball season, and the Giants can just kind of fall into a rhythm from here, because there was no rhythm whatsoever the first weekend of the year.
We were talking about that ourselves. I mean, the Padres had yesterday off too. I mean, a Sunday off in Major League Baseball is a rarity. It's hard to really get settled in, especially when you throw in an extra day off and playing on Wednesday on Netflix and all that fun stuff. It's definitely a crazy start to the season, and a kind of a tough start for a brand new manager. I mean, all eyes are on Tony Vitello, who's making the jump from college to the big leagues. My brother went to the University of Tennessee, Dave, so I've watched a lot of Tennessee baseball when Tony was the head coach of the Volunteers. I mean, he has had some great success, and everybody wants to ask the question, can you bring him up to the big leagues? How has your interactions with Tony been so far? And what's the vibe been with a college coach now coaching at the major leagues? I know it's a big national story, but how is it for you guys locally up there in San Francisco?
It is a big national story. There's probably more scrutiny on Tony than, I mean, arguably any manager, new manager, at least in the last decade in MLB, just because of the story and the background and the unprecedented nature of where he came from. But this is a smart baseball guy. Like, this is not some college rah-rah. The stereotype, at least in the old days of college baseball, is, we're going to bunt our third place hitter, and I'm in charge. I'm calling every pitch from the dugout. And Tony is not that. Tony is a very, very smart, savvy baseball person who has followed big league baseball really closely. He's friends with a lot of people around the game. That's part of the reason why he took the job. I have no doubt that Tony can do this job and do it at a high level. I think the players have bought into his baseball acumen. Spring training felt totally normal, which I think was like the ultimate compliment. There wasn't anything that felt unusual, or, it was high energy. It was spirited, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this guy's trying to change the way the big leagues operate. Not at all. But it's part of the reason why the weekend was so disappointing, because there is pressure on the beginning of the season, and just for Tony to kind of like get to a point where it's not about him. And the Giants need to win a few games for that to happen. I mean, it's just inevitable. Like there were questions immediately, which is totally unfair, but like, oh my gosh, does this have something to do with the manager? It had nothing to do with the manager, but until they can win a few games, score a few runs, and just kind of look like the normal version of themselves, all that talk is probably going to persist.
We're talking with the play-by-play voice of the San Francisco Giants, Dave Flemming, on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not big bank banking, it's better, as we're here on the Braden Surprenant Show on a Monday morning, getting ready for Padres and Giants later on this evening to start a very important series between two teams that are battling, obviously, for playoff recognition this year. Let's talk about the rotation a little bit. I mean, the Giants didn't go, necessarily big on frontline pitching this offseason. Saw some early struggles with Logan Webb and newcomers Tyler Molly, but this is a Padres lineup that thrives on contact. What should Padres fans expect with some of the starters this week for the San Francisco Giants?
Yeah, you're going to see Landon Roop tonight, and Landon, the Padres saw him last year. He's a young guy who is talented, has had a hard time staying healthy. He's not, he's not one of these, Paul Skeens, Mizorowski, power young arms. He's more of a sort of an old school pitcher, and he's very effective at what he does. So Landon Roop's good. He's an important part of the Giants season and future. Logan Webb's going to pitch in this series as well, looking to bounce back. Logan's had he's had some struggles in this park over the last few years. Padres at times have gotten to him. So I think that's going to be interesting to see Webb. Webb's one of these guys. He pitched in the World Baseball Classic. Not that he came out not healthy. He's fully healthy, but there have been a lot of examples over the last many years of pitchers who've gone to that event and had a hard time transitioning back and going back into spring training mode and then flipping the switch in the regular season. It's just kind of a roller coaster ride for these guys that's different from their normal preparation for the season. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on Logan Webb when he gets the ball in this series for the second time. Giants don't have a ton of starting pitching depth, so they really are going to lean on Webb, Ray, Roop, Hauser, Malley, the five that start the year. The Giants are looking to get as much out of those five as they possibly can.
Damn, I feel like we're talking about the exact same teams going against each other this week. Padres have question marks in the rotation. Padres have a brand new manager. Offense did okay, but not necessarily great. But they have some stars mixed in as well. Two very similar teams playing this week, and just from your perspective, and we'll dive back into the series in a second. I do want to know from a broadcaster point of view. We got some new rules now in Major League Baseball. We got the ABS system. What was it like for you guys this weekend against the Yankees in terms of the ABS? How did you view it as a broadcaster? What was your experience like? Really being able to see it for the first time in regular season games.
Yeah, it was a huge part of the story of the weekend. Huge. It was, in the second game of the year, Aaron Judge had an at-bat where he challenged a call that was very close. I mean, as close as it can possibly be and be overturned. 1/10 of an inch, I think, is the closest a pitch can be. And Judge was right. And instead of 1-1, it was 2-0. And he homered in the at-bat, a few pitches later. So it was a huge call, huge swing in that sequence. We had a game on Saturday, the finale of the series, where I know CB Buckner is catching all kinds of grief for his performance and having all these calls overturned. Chad Whitson was the home plate umpire for Giants Yankees. 7 for 7 players were challenging him and successful. Like Chad Whitson had 7 calls overturned and never was right when a player challenged. It was just a brutal game for him. And I felt bad for him as it went along. It was just snowballing. And so the umpire's reaction to it is going to be interesting as this thing goes along. I know there are a few guys who have to be unhappy with the way the thing played out. And I guess part of the reason for that is, I'm sure you all saw that. We saw it in San Francisco. It was definitely in Cincinnati. It was a big part of the story of that series. The fan reaction to this thing has been way bigger than I anticipated it would be. It's part of why I'm feeling for the umpires right now, because it's like now fans are rooting against umpires too, and it's created just a strange dynamic. But in terms of the excitement of being in the park, weirdly, I think this new system has added an element of fun and excitement. I certainly didn't anticipate that, but that seems to be the case, at least here early.
Yeah, it seemed like that this weekend. We didn't have as many challenges as you guys did over the weekend, but there was a couple of times where the Padres catchers flipped a walk into a strikeout throughout the at bat, and fans went nuts for it every single time. And I don't know, maybe it's the graphic, Dave. Maybe people are super interested in the little graphic they put on the video board. It seems very entertaining for a lot of people.
Yeah, the delay helps. I mean, you don't want it. The fine line is you don't want this to stall the game out. Like, we've done such a good job in baseball the last few years of creating much more pace and tempo to games. It's made it a much more fun sport to watch. You do not want to mess with that. I'm like, at all costs. But that little pause of the thing goes up on the board and fans get to kind of anticipate it, and especially when, it's one thing when it's like a 1-0 pitch that gets challenged, but when it is like you're saying that, strikeout or walk, or strike three or not, or whatever, that drama is real. And so that little delay, whether you credit the way the graphic is built or just sort of the time built into the reveal, that definitely seems to be a factor here in making it. I think it's a hit so far. Who would have ever thought like a robot strike zone might actually be a fun part of the game? But in the first weekend, I think that was a big storyline.
I think it's also fun that you only get a couple of them too. I think that makes it more suspenseful if it's not every single time, because people will get bored if it's every single time. We're talking with Dave Flemming, who's the play-by-play voice of the San Francisco Giants. Dave, I got one more question for you, just as a sports broadcasting nerd that I am. I do play-by-play at the University of San Diego. I know you do a lot of West Coast Conference games out here on the West Coast. It's Your career seems really fun. I know it's tough, try to miss time with the family and everything like that. I know you work really hard, but how cool is it to work for the Giants, who have a bunch of great broadcasters, legendary broadcasters? I think yourself is included in that. But when you get to the fall, what is the week like for Dave Flemming, who's got to fly to some college football game, got the Giants mixed in? I mean, that's a lot of moving around. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. I know it's a lot of work, but what's the day in the life of Dave Flemming as the Giants broadcaster when it gets to some of those busy months for you?
Yeah, I appreciate the nice words. I mean, it's all fun. It is a lot of work, and it's a lot of travel, and there is a grind element to it. Like, you got to kind of love to lean into that. I do, but I love the variety. My life is full of variety, and that's really fun. And sometimes I like the events most that are a little bit off the radar. Just thinking in the last year, some of my absolute favorite things that I've done, non-baseball, I get to do the World Series for the World Feed for MLB. The World Series was absolutely incredible. So that's kind of like the pinnacle. You're at the World Series. It's a game 7, and one of the great sort of ends to a World Series of all time. And yet, when I think of my last year, the World Series is up there, but so is the FCS National Championship, Montana State and Illinois State football. Just a totally wacky, goofy, all-time great championship game. The Ivy League championship was incredible in basketball, like one of the great individual performances I've ever seen. Gonzaga St. Mary's for the final time that they'll ever meet as conference foes was an incredibly memorable scene. So sometimes, I'm privileged. I get to do a lot of these really big events, and sometimes my favorites are the ones that you would never anticipate going in, and that's part of the variety that I really, really love.
And I know you've been on with us long enough, and I'll let you get on with the day. The point that I really want to just follow up on that with that I find funny is watching a lot of these games. I mean, Dave, you went from calling the World Series, right, and having a great, probably a lot better of a booth at a big league ballpark. I mean, that the Ivy League championship, you look like you're it's like a high school gym. You had like people sitting right next, like right behind you. You look like you were on one of the benches, a wooden bench from a high school gym. I mean, you've got to call a lot of games, a lot of interesting booths, if you will.
And it can be as fun as doing the World Series. It really is like it's just a funny thing about this. And maybe if I were Mike Tirico, I wouldn't find that as much fun if I'm doing a huge event every single week. But I love bouncing around and going to these some places where they're like really excited to see you and they don't get a chance to be on big television very often. That's pretty fun.
It's a great time. We broadcast on YouTube. We already have somebody jumping on the YouTube chat going like, hearing Dave Flemming's voice, I'm getting excited for Arizona State playing at BYU, thinking he's probably going to be on the call late at night. So, you know what? Sometimes it's the connection to the voice, Dave. I mean, as a TCU grad, now with the Big 12 being out in the West Coast, if they play BYU on the road, I'm more likely than not, I think I'm going to hear Dave Flemming's voice. But Dave,
you're getting me. Whether you want it or not, you're getting me.
That's right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing some of those. So be a little bit extra favorable on the Frogs. I'm just kidding. We appreciate the time, Dave. Have a great week here in San Diego. Thanks again for taking the time to talk with us, and we'll talk to you next time.
You're welcome. Yeah, anytime.
Dave Flemming, radio play-by-play voice of the San Francisco Giants, joining us on the Braden Surprenant Show.